Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we talk about a return to normalcy, when the vintage Pokemon card market might at least return to a relative normal, given everything that went on in 2020 and early 2021. Now, today's video is a little interesting for a variety of reasons, because normal is really not a word many of us are used to anymore. Given the events of 2020, and again, just everything that's kind of led up to where we are today, there's a lot of reasons why normal has been given a new definition, especially for the Pokemon trading card game. And especially for the different markets that exist within the trading card hobby. What I mean to say is that for the vintage, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. For the non-vintage or modern day items, there's even more craziness going on. And so in this special two-part video, we're going to be taking a look at the vintage in this video and the modern in the next video. And we're going to take a look and say, when can we reasonably expect things to come back to normal? And realistically, what the new normal is even going to look like in a post-COVID and a post-massive boom in prices type of world. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Firstly, let's go ahead and define two things, two key phrases that we're going to be using in today's video, and those are going to be the short term and the long term. So short term is going to be defined as what happens in give or take a year or 2 years time. And then long term is going to be anything that happens after that. Now, these are just terms that seem relatively simple, but again, just wanted to put them out there because I know a lot of individuals may struggle with understanding specifically what the time frames are, and so putting that out there just kind of helps set it up on a good path. The reason we pick a 1 to 2 year time frame for short term, by the way, is because realistically we would want to see what can be accomplished in 1 year's time. And the reason I say 2 years is sort of a maximum to that is because given the once in a lifetime event that is COVID-19, a global health pandemic, and the impacts it has had on a variety of different industries, including trading card games and supply, there's been a really weird kind of influx of modern stuff, and then in addition to that, it has really kept people at home because of all the quarantining that we've had to do and the shutting down that we've had to do, and as a result of that, collectibles have just surged in value. So you figure in about 2 years' time, much of this will probably be history. And what that means is that within that short-term frame, we may see, again, some leveling out of the vintage market and the activity that we've seen so far. So with all that said, let's look at the current state of the hobby. And right now in the vintage market, I think we're in a plateau. However, a plateau is not necessarily a bad thing. Hear me out. So over the past year, specifically in the second half of 2020, we saw a massive flood of vintage Pokemon cards get opened up, get resold, get sold again, and basically prices continued to climb for a variety of cards. Now, perhaps the blue chip of all Pokemon cards would have to be the first edition base set Charizard card, and a quick Google search will yield you all the information you need to know about how they would continue to sell for record-breaking prices all throughout 2020. Now, in early 2021, it seems that for a variety of reasons, everyone has kind of slowed down. So in the grand scheme of things, although we've been very used to headlines like this one, Pokemon cards could sell for 500 Gs, breaking records, it seems like right now, everybody's just kind of chilling out. You know what I mean? Everybody's just kind of holding their breath, kind of seeing what comes next. And what's incredibly interesting about all of this is that as you think about and look to the future, you can see that right now, as we currently stand, everyone's just kind of chill and holding off real quick. And that's good because that is effectively a plateau. Prices have stopped climbing and effectively the vintage market is cooling off. Now, there are a couple things driving this, in my opinion. The first is that celebrities aren't hawking stuff down at the same rate they were in 2020, meaning Steve Aoki, although he is continuing to be a major part of the hobby, isn't just, grinding away at opening first edition base set boxes, etc., etc. Same concept with folks like Collectibles Guru, Dumb Money TV, and all the different openers and channels that open stuff up and, kind of put it out there. Effectively, whether or not you agree with any one of them or the group and collective, what this stuff really does is serve as a commercial for the rest of the hobby. And as more and more people begin watching their stuff, consuming their content, and seeing what they're doing, more and more people become interested. That then inspires people to buy, to invest, and to, again, push to break new records. So that's why, Logic can buy a first edition Charizard at 220,000, and then literally a few weeks later, a record is broken again. Because again, now all of a sudden, all of Logic's fans get to know about it, and that has a rippling effect in the market, which helps to multiply the amount of people that are buying and competitively bidding on cards. So with all of that sort of tapered down, it has created a little lull in the market, which again, many people are curious about, but many people are very comfortable with because they realize that in the grand scheme of things, like any plateau, we're just climbing to the next surge. Now, with all that said, let's move into the short term now that you have a good understanding of where we currently are in the market. As you can see on screen right now, there are tons of sold listings, and all I really did was go on eBay, type in Pokemon cards, and sort by the highest price, including shipping. And it's not hard to see that many of the cards that have sold recently have actually kind of bottomed a little bit, which again goes in line with what I just said. It's realistically a slight contraction of the market, again caused by a variety of factors, but there was a point when people were asking $90,000 to $100,000 for a PSA 10 first edition Charizard. Now, a couple days ago at least, that number was significantly reduced, and I bet the number is even lower than that because I bet this was actually a best offer that was made on this particular card. So, with all that said, I think the next major step for Pokemon is going to be proving these new highs. So what does that mean? Well, if you just type in Pokemon EX and start scrolling, you're going to see some pretty funny and wacky numbers. So as an example, here's a 2015 Pokemon Art Academy promo card that someone's asking $50,000 for. Here's a PSA 10 Gem Mint Charizard EX that someone's asking, again, $50,000 for. A Gold Star for $48,000, a Gold Star for $42,000, a Gold Star for $40,000. You get the idea. There are tons of really weird prices right now. And I think the EX era is probably one of the best to highlight because the stuff is so rare that it doesn't frequently sell. And that actually helps me prove my point, which is stuff is going to need to continue to sell for the prices it was in the back half of 2020 in order for us to fairly establish what is actually the price of certain items. Again, we've seen first edition Charizard sell, we've seen base set boxes sell, so many of these things have proven prices and proven trajectories. But the other part of the equation that we're currently looking at is identifying and basically proving every single one of the different Pokemon card items that are out there. Now, is that possible? I don't think so. But what I mean to say is that as time goes on, especially in the short term, we're going to see, predictably, a lot of other items come up on the market. And as they do, they're either going to sell for above or below what someone's asking for them. So the next time a PSA 10 Charizard goes up for auction as a Gold Star, it's going to sell for either below or above this number. And then it's basically going to prove whether or not it is worth what this person is asking, or if this person is asking an unrealistic price and needs to lower it. Either way, when it sells, we're going to get two things. One, proof of who's crazy on the market and who isn't, meaning who needs to lower their price, who needs to raise it, etc., etc. And the second thing is we're going to get a clear, concrete evidence to how much the card is actually worth. Now, if you need a good example of this, just think about Hold-On Phantoms. If you go on eBay and you look up the sold auctions or the finished auctions, there's actually one that didn't sell for $45,000. Again, It could have sold for more, it could have sold for less. The guy wanted $45,000 for it. He didn't get that. So the next time one of those goes up for auction, or the next time a sale happens, it's going to happen for a price either above or below it. And again, it's going to need to prove whether or not it is worth as much as everyone thinks it is, or if it is in fact worth a lower price. And again, we're going to get two things from that transaction: evidence to who needs to lower and raise, as well as a clear indicator as to how much a reasonable buyer is willing to purchase the box for. So for the short term, I think we're going to see a lot of proving happening. Basically, you're going to see a lot of cards and a lot of very different prices on a week-to-week basis. You may see this go up to $60,000 next week if one of these sells for $55,000 in an auction that's completing today or tomorrow. That's just the nature of the market that we're currently in. But because it's vintage, these prices are quote-unquote allowed, and until they're proven otherwise, technically the best you can do is try to just hawk these people down and see what a reasonable offer they would accept is. So, you know, that's probably going to be the way the short term kind of works. I don't see people just dropping out of nowhere and letting this stuff go, because if people think it's worth this much, and we all know whose hand that is, so, you know, this is going to be $3 million by Christmas, wink wink. But you get the idea. The idea is that if someone thinks the box is legitimately worth this much, then the only other question is, the next time one of these sells in the free market and isn't just a buy it now on eBay, is it going to sell for above or below? Because again, that's going to help determine what the market is actually doing. So in the short term, expect to see prices change and solidify themselves. And then after that, we can work towards, you know, finishing up the quote-unquote selection of different items that are out there that still have an unproven price, but are in a situation where someone is asking a hilarious amount of money. This may not be hilarious. There was a time when Charizards were selling for $8,000 and people thought that was much. And nowadays, that has been such a dream price to have bought that card at that people continually beat themselves up about it. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is for the long term. And this is where it's very important to understand the nature of vintage Pokemon cards. Almost everything that you're seeing on screen right now, and I'm pretty sure it's actually everything that you're seeing on screen right now, will never be printed by Pokemon ever again. What is out there is out there, and you will never, ever see Pokemon print another one, which means this is one of X amount of boxes that exist out in the world, period, end of story. There are no more, there are no less. If someone bought this box and opened it up on YouTube, there is one less in the world than what existed the day before. The idea behind that is that all of this stuff is out of print and will never be printed again. As a result of that, vintage Pokemon cards will always follow a pattern of slowly appreciating over time. Because again, the older they get, the less supply of this stuff there is, because again, cards get destroyed, cards get stolen, things get opened up, etc., etc. One could make the argument that if you open this box and pull a Gold Star card, well, sure, you've destroyed the box, but you've created a PSA 10 slab. But ideally, there's no way for these two to coexist. You have to open the box to get the cards to get the PSA 10, but then the box is gone. And without the box, you'd never get the PSA 10. You see my point? No matter what you do, vintage Pokemon cards can only decline. They can never increase in quantity over time. And as a result, prices are likely to only continue to raise over time. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said that we're in a plateau. And that just means that prices are kind of holding still because of a variety of reasons. But I wanted to sort of start wrapping this video up by showing something on the PSA site. So back in, give or take 2016, again, first edition PSA 10 Charizards were selling at auction for about $8,800, right? Let's call it $9,000. And then literally a couple months later, $9,000. As you can see, right about here was a plateau. Basically, nothing really was happening. You can say a $450 variance is expected for a card that's about $9,000 expensive. So realistically, nothing spicy was happening here. We were in kind of a lull, right? Magically, what ended up happening is a couple of months later, prices spiked. Again, PWCC auctions all the way through. Same concept literally a month later. And then look at that. There's even a little bit of a market contraction. If you look at it, you can actually see that the market on PSA 10s contracted just a little bit. But then all of a sudden, about a month later, spike again, and then up and up and up and up. And then this is the way the market works. Most markets behave like this. You'll have periods or cycles of growth. You'll have periods or cycles of decline, or at least contraction, or plateauing, which we're currently in. And then magically, you'll close your eyes one day, and in about 5 months' time, your Pokemon card is going to jump probably about, 33% overnight. And again, these things happen. It's a combination of a variety of different factors that sort of drive this stuff, and I'm making it seem very simple by just highlighting the prices, but not necessarily telling you what could have been happening in the world or in hobby or anywhere else that could have influenced this stuff. But you get the idea. The idea is that slowly but surely, things sort of happen and wheels start turning, and before you know it, in the course of a year, your card effectively triples in value. And again, these are both auctions that were known to have been paid and that were verified to be true. So the idea here is that in the long run, what we can expect is a return to growth. The hobby and the vintage market has in many ways stagnated right now. Again, it's just holding on. But don't forget, we have a 25th anniversary coming up. We have Katy Perry singing at the top of her lungs. We have McDonald's giving out promo Pokemon cards. We got Pokemon cards and cereal. Long story short, we have Pokemon cards everywhere, and we have many, many reasons to celebrate being in the hobby this year. As a result of that, I think we're in a position where we're going to see a spike like this somewhere soon. Again, will it be to the same degree? No. We have to bear in mind that there's only so much money people are willing to spend or have to spend, and the economy here, at least in the United States, isn't necessarily the healthiest right now. So we do have to bear in mind there are tons of macroeconomic factors that will influence that for the long run. But I do think that with tax refunds coming in over the next couple of months, a stimulus check possibly in the works here in the United States as well as across the world, and a variety of 25th anniversary products, promotions, and other things going on, that the vintage market is just going to be pumped full of energy in the long run. And I think that's going to really help set off our short-term market to really kind of pump up, but will also help set us on a really, really high trajectory for the long run. So, in conclusion, I think what we're looking at for the vintage market is a new normal where there are very high prices. I don't think market prices are ever going to go back to pre-COVID days. It's just not feasible, because at this point, people have paid so much that the market wouldn't just fold in on itself and reduce so much. Instead, we may see more frequent cycles of stagnation where prices kind of hold off for a little bit, and then another big thing is going to happen in Pokemon that's going to cause prices to spike again. And then, while all of this is happening, certain other products will have to sell on the open market in order to help establish themselves as a legitimate purchase price, as well as help identify who on eBay or who in the community is listing products too high and too low. And they'll either have to adjust their prices or take their stuff off market if it's not the price they were looking for. But with all that said, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. I hope you enjoyed this, albeit different video that kind of helps highlight what I personally think the upcoming years will hold for the vintage market. It's really easy to say that prices are going to go up, but it's important to note the nuances of how prices are going to go up and what might be driving that. So I do hope you found some value out of it. As always, thank you for checking out another one of my videos. I always say, you could have been anywhere on the internet, but you chose to spend some time with me, and I do appreciate that. If you liked today's video, feel free to leave a like on the video, and if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. But other than that, friends, thanks again for checking out another video, and we'll talk soon. Peace.